They're basically saying, so vote yes now because otherwise you're going to lose everything. They're like, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name's Lauren, the filmmaker extraordinaire, and after a bit of a hiatus, we are back. As some of you might know, the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, is currently on strike. The Screen Actors Guild has voted yes for a strike authorization, but they are not yet on strike. And the DGA, the Directors Guild, has reached a tentative agreement with the board and basically the studios, the Alliance of Motion Pictures. It is currently just up in the air on if the individual members of the DGA will be voting yes or no on the agreement. If they vote yes, then it goes through. If they vote no, then the Directors Guild will basically also go on strike. And I personally think they should. I do want to caveat that I'm in none of these guilds. For my personal life at this time, potentially work might eventually get impacted by some of these things, but where I'm currently at, we're sort of in the clear, so I do want to caveat that it's easy for me to have an opinion because it doesn't currently affect me like right now financially or my livelihood or anything like that. The reason the WGA is on strike and the Screen Actors will most likely go on strike has to do with some basic demands, or that I think are pretty basic demands that should not even need to be demanded, they should just be met, which mostly includes better wages, AI protections, residuals, that sort of thing. I know that the contracts go a lot more to other things such as benefits, healthcare, etc. But the stuff that the public is aware of, and I think which is enough to get at least my gears wound up, is how, the writers, for instance, are getting paid garbage and all these stupid little loopholes about what made them get paid a certain amount of money. And basically the writers are like, we should be getting paid the same amount of money regardless of whatever the room we're officially in is called or anything like that, because we're doing the same job. And then of course AI, artificial intelligence, is a huge factor right now in the strikes and rights decisions and talks and needs for protection, because maybe you've heard of ChatGPT. I think Google has Bard. There's obviously art ones, I think like Midjourney, and of course all the different AI filters on Snapchat, TikTok, etc. I know AI can be fun, but a lot of times AI is not necessarily ethical. It can steal art, it can plagiarize, and sometimes it just makes things up if it seems to catapult and sometimes it just makes things up. The reason it's a problem in the creative industry, and I think it's a problem in other industries as well, but stick to the topic here, is because someone can say, write a screenplay in the style of so-and-so about this plot. So some person who's not trained in the art of writing will, try to spit something out basically, and it will not be good, I would not think. It would not have the nuance that a real person would have. But if a money-hungry studio is just trying to generate something quickly and they don't really care about the writing, as I'm sure you've seen many movies where the writing is like, who greenlit this, then basically the writer is not really needed anymore. Potentially, of course, they might still have some writing staff, but they might be able to cut down a lot on how many people are in the writers' rooms and doing the work. On the actor's side, people have been doing, you may have heard people say like, if this song was sung by a different artist, and it's kind of, warping faces and voices, and there's of course like deep fakes, which you may have heard about. So there's just a lot of things going on where you could basically use someone's likeness and even their voice without them actually being involved, and then you don't have to pay them necessarily, which is the real crux of the issue here. Now, the Directors Guild is not necessarily in that same exact boat with AI, but as we will discuss over some of their protections that they have in their tentative agreement, they are still having to be conscious of and aware of what artificial intelligence might do to them, their position in the industry, etc. I will not be going over the entirety of the DGA tentative contract. I will leave a link down below of like a PDF of it, but I'll just be going over a couple of the key highlights because I don't think it's really worth taking the time in this video, which I'm trying to keep relatively brief. I will also be referencing my computer, so I'm looking to the side. That's what I'm looking at. My wall is not that interesting, but my computer does have the information. As far as wage increases go for the directors, the agreement has a compound, so increase of 13+% over the course of 3 years. This is a good wage increase. It is the highest increase basically in 30 years, which is pretty sad when you think about the state of things in the industry, but a really good thing to be accomplished. I don't want to diminish that. I do think that while I do want the directors to go on strike, to have solidarity with the other artists, and because, as I will talk about in a little bit with the AI stuff, I don't think it's really good enough. I do think that they are obviously making good leaps and bounds in other areas. But not only are they having residuals for streaming video on demand, but they're also putting in more regulations about free-to-consumer video on demands with like ad supporting, so that money can go back to the creatives, which I think is awesome, super great. Then of course there's the benefits, holidays, safety measures, all things that I think are good, but I'm not like gonna cry, to the moon about them right now because that's not why we're here. We're here for this point, which is, drumroll, the generative artificial intelligence. Now I'm going to read this verbatim. Duties performed by DGA members must be assigned to a person, and generative artificial intelligence does not constitute a person. Employers may not use generative artificial intelligence in connection with creative elements without consultation with the director or other DGA covered employees. Mandated twice-yearly meetings with the studios to discuss and negotiate over AI. Ensures that DGA members' job duties will not be replaced by or assigned to generative artificial intelligence, and creates a formal structure for DGA to meet with the studios on how generative artificial intelligence will be used in the future. So they're being really, I'd say, like very umbrella with this terminology, and they're leaving a huge window for this to not stay the same, right? If they're saying we're gonna have every 2 years we're gonna discuss AI, and they're already saying AI will be used in the future, this is not like a slam dunk, we are stopping AI from taking our jobs. This is, we're trying to put a band-aid on the situation and hope that we can come up with something better in 2 years, but by then, artificial intelligence is obviously going to keep increasing, I think, in capability and means. Whether or not the capability is really good for art and pursuing societal good and cultural impact, yet to be determined. But the technology itself will be obviously increased. Now again, I do not have access to the official contract. I only can see kind of the highlight overview. And on Film Twitter, where I am a frequent visitor, I've been seeing a lot of DGA members explaining why they're voting no, and like basically saying that the agreement's not good. And this is something that one of them tweeted, Dan Signer. Now again, I have to just trust that this is actually in the contract. So that's the nuance there. But basically it says, the parties recognize that this side letter is being negotiated at a time when the use of generative artificial intelligence is in the process of exploration, experimentation, and innovation. Therefore, this side letter expires on June 30th, 2026, unless the parties mutually agree to an extension. This is saying that regardless of these every 2 year meetings about AI, then all the rights that they're trying to win, all the protections for AI that the directors are trying to win right now, could all be gone in 3 years regardless, which is not, to me, is not good enough. To me, if I were in the DGA, which one day I would like to be, I would be like, no way, because in 3 years, if they kind of have been, not like pushed over, but like right now we're in a time where the writers are on strike, the actors are probably going to go on strike. There's a lot of things happening, and there might be some actual momentum with the studios. In 3 years from now, I don't know if that will be the case anymore. Another tweet that highlights something that I don't love, this one was tweeted by Joe Russo, and now his commentary was, instead of standing with the WGA and SAG and leveraging a historic moment in Hollywood labor, the DGA is trying to scare members into a yes vote. And the text that is this scary, which I read this, I was floored, was vote yes. The agreement is ratified and the contract will go into effect July 1st, 2023. Vote no. The agreement is rejected, and there is no guarantee any of the tentative terms will be part of a future contract. Our contract expires July 1st, and it is very unlikely that we will be able to resume negotiations as SAG-AFTRA is negotiating now, which is crazy. They're basically saying, So vote yes now, because otherwise you're going to lose everything. They're like, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Except in this case, they're just desperate, right? Like, they are desperate for them to say yes, because they know that if they say no, it's not that they're worried that they won't actually get stuff in the future. It's the studios are worried that they're going to like lose everything, basically. And then the cherry on top is they're like, we probably won't be able to negotiate because other people are negotiating. And they're like, and then we will have to go on strike, or we're like, you know, we have a problem. Which obviously, again, as I said earlier, I have no personal current stake in the game. So it's easy for me to say, like, stick it to the man, vote no. I understand that strikes do affect people. I'm, you know, in North Hollywood, Burbank area, and there are places that I know are struggling more because less people are working, so they're not eating out as much, they're not buying as much stuff, and I am like seeing some of the consequences of that. I don't think anyone should be happy if, you know, anyone's business is struggling or livelihood is struggling, but I do believe in workers' rights and getting your fair pay, and especially as someone who's I want to hopefully grow in this industry in some capacity, and I want to be going into a position where my rights are protected as a creative and just as a worker in general. And I can't vote. So I have no say in it. I can only hope that something will work out in a way that will ultimately benefit not just me, but the industry as a whole, because it's about a lot more than one person. I do also want to say, kind of to wrap up the video, that the WGA has stated, at least publicly, that they congratulate the DGA on reaching a tentative agreement, and that regardless of whether or not the DGA agreement goes through as is, their demands will remain unchanged. Meaning that the writers are still going to be on strike until their demands are met. Even if the directors are able to direct, they will not be providing them any new material to direct, basically. Which I think is great. Go unions. And I will see you next time. If you're interested in hopping back along on the journey of me making various videos, then hit subscribe. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and please comment down below your thoughts and opinions on what's going on. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say, and I'll see you next time. Bye.